Hey, I'm Deidre Detterman, host of the Do It My Way podcast, where we empower women business owners and CEOs to do business on their terms with no regrets, hesitation, or fear. I'm obsessed with all things marketing. I started my career in television, and I remember sitting in countless meetings, listening to executives talk about things that needed to change, but they never did. I was always thinking, what if we did it my way? Once I became an entrepreneur and I started living life on my terms, working the hours I want to work, making the money I want to make, I started to feel success. I was finally in control of my destiny. I hope you will join me on this journey discovering how you can do it your way. Welcome to the Do It My Way podcast. You are not going to want to miss my next guest. Let me just read some of these titles that she has had. Businesswoman, mayor, speaker, dean, community builder, women-owned business advocate, stakeholder, board member, social impact leader, Tulsa of the Year, and Oklahoma Women Hall of Fame. You are not going to want to miss Kathy Taylor. She is amazing. She's a visionary for Tulsa and has done so many great things. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Well, welcome, Kathy, to the podcast.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
I am so excited to have you here. And you probably don't know this, but you've been a mentor of mine for a really long time. So I know I met you back in 2008.
Right.
That's when I was launching 918moms.com. And you were such an advocate for female entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs in general, but really, mentored Melanie and I during that time and coming up with the Entrepreneur Spirit Award and all of those things and just really paving the way for female entrepreneurs.
Well, you did a great job. You were a great leader.
So, well, thank you. So I'm honored to have you here today. And the more research we did, I know a ton about you, but as we dove in and started researching, I'm like, I think you've held more titles than anyone I know.
I say I can't hold a job. Move from place to place.
I don't know about that.
I get bored easily.
But you are definitely one of the most visionary people that Tulsa has had and done some really amazing things. So I can't wait to dive in today to talk a little bit more about that. But first, tell me, did you always want to be a businesswoman?
Well, I wanted to be a journalist. That was my original goal. I got an A+++ on some paper I wrote, I think in 6th grade. And I did go to journalism school, but I lost both my parents when I was 18, and so I had to put myself through college. And frankly, I didn't think that was going to be a great economic life for me on my own. And I love to write, I love to research, I love to solve problems, and so I went to law school and practiced law in the business world for about a decade, and then became vice president and general counsel of Thrifty Dollar. That's amazing. So journalist to law school, that's kind of a big difference.
Well,
you write a lot and you research a lot in both vocations, and so I felt like it really played to my talents. And I loved law school. A lot of people think it was drudgery, but I really loved my 3 years in law school, and I loved practicing law.
So, what do you think law school did to transfer into business? How did that shape you?
That's a great question. I think in every position I've had, my legal background has helped, because what you do is you gather the facts. You make sure you have all the facts, because you don't make a good decision if you don't have all the facts. You analyze it and you find a solution to the problem. And so whether it's in litigation or it's in merger and acquisition, which is the really work that I did in franchising, it's all the same. So I feel like that basic skill set has transferred with me over every position that I've had.
That's great. I love that. Well, let's talk politics for a minute. So, because I know you were former mayor, Kathy Taylor.
Yes.
And 38th mayor in Tulsa and second female. And
broke that glass ceiling.
That's
Susan
amazing.
Savage.
I love that. And the highest voter turnout was during your time.
And I'm really proud of that, and even more proud today, because I think today, and there's a book called Bowling Alone that Robert Putnam, a professor at Harvard, wrote about 14 years ago, and he said with the advent of 24/7 TV and social media, we were going to begin to see a decrease in community engagement in voting. We were going to see an increase in polarization. He was exactly right. And so to me, the fact that Bill of Fortune and I were able to engage the voters to care about getting out and voting, I was happy I won the election, but I was really happy that people in the community cared enough about the future of Tulsa to go out and vote.
So when did the light bulb go off where you were like, I'm getting into politics?
Well, I always loved public service, so I think maybe I had a different view. And when we had purchased National Car Rental and sold it, I was able to go into kind of whatever career I wanted to. It was the first time in my life that I didn't have to really worry about as much about where my mortgage payment, my car payment, my food payment was going to come from. And so I contacted a mentor of mine, Robert Butkin, the former state treasurer, and said, if there's never an opportunity for me to serve, I'd like to serve. So I was on the Grand River Dam Authority, and then Brad Henry appointed me as Secretary of Commerce and Tourism and Workforce Development. So I guess that was my first entree into politics. I was completely naive, by the way. And I just wanted everybody to do the right thing and do well and make a difference for Oklahoma. There were a few bumps along the road.
It probably opened your eyes to that, but the fact that you went as a servant, that's why you were so successful. And I think people see that, and all the things you've done in Tulsa is just amazing, which we're going to talk about. I know Vision 2025 was one of the big initiatives when you were there, which has brought the BOK Center.
Yeah, well, Bill of Fortune passed Vision 2025, but the BOK Center was not built when I got into office. And I was, my first 4 weeks in office, I had to deliver the city budget. So there I was delivering a city budget of $500 and some million. I had to approve bids for the BOK Center, and the glass and steel, if you look at the BOK Center, that's the biggest part. So I'm in a budget meeting, and the guy that runs construction for BOK says, hey, we're opening glass and steel bids today. If there's an issue, we'll come see you, but I think it'll be fine. The door opens to the budget room, and this guy looks like not good. He doesn't look good. And the BOK Center was, I lose track of the numbers, but let's say $20 million over budget. And we can't borrow money at the city. We got to pay as you go. And so I had to figure out a way to get the BOK Center built with the money that we had.
And that's where Vision 2025.
No, actually, Vision 2025 passed to provide the initial money for the BOK Center, but it wasn't enough.
Okay.
It wasn't enough.
So I the home run. You got it through the finish line.
I got it finished. Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Well, everyone who loves all the concerts can thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, and the way that it looks, it could have been. We could have had to scale it back into just a brick building, and now it's an iconic building that people come to Tulsa to see, and it's one of the top venues in the nation still.
It's amazing. Okay, talk me through your time as mayor. You had two major things that went on: a recession,
yes,
and also a crazy ice storm.
Yes.
How did you overcome and get through that?
So I think the recession, CFO came to me and said, our revenues have dropped 30% month over month. And the city, very uniquely in Oklahoma, all of our operating revenues, so all the salaries for police and fire and public works and all the things that citizens rely upon people to do, anything that's not a building, is paid by sales tax. So if you're in a recession, your sales tax go down. Again, you can't borrow money. You've got to manage your budget year to year. Well, we had 7 trade unions, and I invited them to our management meetings every single week, even though people were like, really? Is that what you do? It was, because it was about transparency. And when we saw that revenue drop, I went to the leadership of those unions and I said, I'm going to ask everybody equally to take 3 furlough days. I know that's rough on families, but the only other option I had was to decrease the workforce. We couldn't afford to decrease the number of police officers or public works or firefighters. And every single union voted, agreed 100%, and we did not have one arbitration complaint filed.
Well, that's a tribute to you as a leader. Right?
Well,
they listened to you, and
well,
what
they
a great
trusted
solution.
me.
And that's a great solution.
We allowed them to have trust because we didn't hide. We were very transparent. Cities' finances are public, and they should be transparent to everyone. So that worked.
Okay, founder of the Lebec Taylor Family Foundation, and you guys have done so many amazing things for entrepreneurs. Tell me what the vision is for entrepreneurs. Let's talk 20 years ago when you first started doing that, and walk me through what that means to Tulsa.
Sure. So when we started the Lebec Taylor Family Foundation, it really, my husband and I did that initially because we wanted to pay back the debts that we feel like we owed to our educational institutions. We're both public school, both K through 12 and university public school graduates, and we feel like that education gave us opportunity. So that was our initial goal. And then my daughter was graduated from law school and came to be the CEO. And she said, the education space is really crowded. It's hard to make an impact. But there's a space that no one's paying attention to, and that is entrepreneurs, and particularly non-tech entrepreneurs, food entrepreneurs. Those are often people that are just holding onto the safety net as best they can, selling food at their churches, out of the backs of their cars, and they don't have the wherewithal to understand how to scale. And so she really, it's a tribute to her. She came into my office and said, Mom, there's a better use for this space, which is down Mother Road Market. You should move down the street. And so I moved my office down the street, and she turned the 1939 Scrivener's Grocery Warehouse into Mother Road Market, which has a culinary boot camp that serves, I guess we have 4 cohorts a year, and 2 are in Spanish, because that's the highest growing population in our community. And many of the Spanish speakers don't know how to access the licensing, the services, the human resources. And so it's just like a tech entrepreneurial boot camp, but it's for food entrepreneurs.
Do you have a success story that's come out of Mother Road Market or Kitchen 66 that kind of stands out to you?
So the Kitchen 66 program, some of our graduates go into the market, some of them go elsewhere. I think the most recent and one of my favorites is Dr. Custom. So he moved here from Brazil with his wife and 2 daughters, and he was the first food hall chef named a James Beard Award winner last year.
Wow, Look at that.
In the nation.
That's amazing. How cool. I know there's so many people. How many people go through there every year?
I think we've served over 300 people from 20 different countries.
Oh, wow. That's impressive.
So it really helps the food fabric of the community, because we're then allowing people to serve, really serve their native foods, and I think increase cultural awareness. And again, my passion, community building.
So what is your advice for women out there that want to start a business, they want to get going? What do they do?
I think, look around for advice and mentors. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to pivot along the way. Your first idea may be great, but it might need, and I know you've seen this, it might need to pivot along the way. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of change, and just don't be afraid of failure. I think failure is the best lesson that you can have.
That's right. It can be your comeback.
Yes, exactly.
And if you don't try, you don't learn.
Exactly.
So I always tell people, you can have 3 balls in the air, and they're not all going to hit. Right? 3 things going. One of them that might be a surprising one is the one that takes off, and that's where you run.
Right, exactly.
After that. So that's great advice. So you've served on 19 boards, by the way, and I don't know if you've ever counted it out.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that little.
But we
bit
were
of
doing
trivia.
research, and I was like, oh my gosh, it kept going and going and going, and I was like, I'm going to count these up. 19 boards for nonprofits. That is very just impressive, and I commend you for that. Thanks. I'm on one board, and it's a lot of work. Yeah. So the fact that have done 19 over your career is really impressive. How important do you think that public service and giving back is?
I really think it's vitally important, and I think we need to continue to have that value, with our kids. When I had an only child, and so when I would volunteer on boards, I normally didn't have a babysitter, and so she was with me, whether I was at the food bank handing out food, whether I was at a board meeting, frankly, whether I was negotiating an M&A transaction. I say my daughter knew what a leveraged buyout was at 11 years old. She was sleeping on the conference table or under the conference table normally beside me. So I think we all live in these communities together, and we're at different seasons of our life and have different needs. And I think it's important that we all pull together. And I do worry, as Robert Putnam Bowling Alone did, that with the rise of social media and the decrease in social face-to-face interactions, that we're going to lose some of that with the next generation. So it's really a passion for me to continue to work on and mentor those who want to build our community.
Definitely. Communication, I think written and oral communication, just with the younger generation, they're used to technology and texting. And, it really is different. But how great for your daughter to be able to see you at such a young age of what you were doing.
Well, and I think that's why then she was passionate about serving as a CEO of a foundation for 15 years and really having the vision for Mother Road Market and Kitchen 66 and 36 Degrees North and other programs that she started for entrepreneurs because she saw the work that I was doing.
So 36 Degrees North, let's talk about that for a minute, because I was just up to the technology area the other day. I had never been up there. So I'd been at the other location, and I mean, I had no idea. There's 10 to 15 tech startups that you would never think were in Tulsa that are doing their thing. And I mean, that a tribute to you.
Well, when I was mayor, what I would hear from entrepreneurs is that there was no network for them. And so actually, Elizabeth started a group called Cultivate 918, which was kind of at the time a meetup group for entrepreneurs. And from that, they said, we need a space. And I didn't get it at first. Like, we're going to all work together in one building. I don't. And we went around the country with a few other people and visited other similar organizations and saw the spark that they could provide. And so, really, at her request, our foundation was one of the founding members of 36.
That's so great. One thing as an entrepreneur, you're kind of on an island by yourself, especially in the beginning.
Right.
I work with a lot of women that it might just be them. Maybe their spouse is helping out, or maybe they have, somebody part-time that is helping, but you really can't afford to go get this big team. And to have collaboration with other people doing something similar is so important.
Well, and I think that it's also the reason why during COVID, a group of us started VEST, because VEST is a network of women, both in the corporate world and in the entrepreneurial world, that can provide, wherever they are in the country, that network of support, and then also develop a venture capital fund that invests in women entrepreneurs.
So share with me VEST. So VEST Her, correct?
Yeah. VEST Her it's a network of women at all different levels or times of their life, from C-suite to entry level. It's a networking, mentoring group. We post jobs for each other. We do a monthly education session with someone from around the country on a topic that we think or that we have heard that women want to hear about. And then we have raised or continuing to raise a venture capital fund that invests exclusively in women-owned businesses in the care economy, because the care economy is where women often are. This from your work, are often also held back and often not compensated appropriately. We think that system is broken, and those companies that are impacting the care economy ultimately will help women's economic mobility.
And I know there's a podcast. I listened to
there is a VEST podcast every month.
Is that
It's part of the education session that we do with our members. Part of the education session with the members is live, and they can ask questions of the speakers, and then we curate that for an education podcast for women.
So what is the process if somebody in there is looking for venture capital money? Like, how does that work?
So Erica Lucas runs our venture capital fund, and they would talk to her, apply. I mean, we're not an initial seed, but we're an early seed funder. So but for companies in the care economy. So
okay, that's amazing. So you've been married for 30 years.
Yes.
I actually just saw that the other day, posted, I think maybe on LinkedIn or something. So what is the secret to success being married 30 years and being this career woman?
Well, my husband and I have done a lot of things together. And we bought National Car Rental twice and sold it together. We've remodeled or built 12 or 14 houses in our 30 years of marriage. We've raised 8 grandchildren. And so we have a lot of common interests. We both love to sail. We both love to cook, and so we've always worked together, but we've also had our own space. So I think that's it. We've done things that are joint passions, but we've also had our own space. And I should say that tragically, my husband has Alzheimer's, and so celebrating our 30th wedding anniversary was was wonderful to look back on those memories, and that's what I look at. But knowing that it's a really difficult journey. It's a journey you should have someone on that's really involved to talk about, because a lot of people are experiencing it, and with whether it's parents or it's spouses, and I have the resources to be able to get help to take care of my husband. But if I didn't, so I think of any of my friends who are caretakers, again in the care economy, caretakers for their family members, I'm going to give some advice. Don't ask what you can do. Just do something and give them a break, because it's a really hard job.
It's a very hard job.
Yeah.
I think the caretaker is the one that, it's the biggest burden is on them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Trying to. And I heard something the other day, because my husband's grandpa passed away from Alzheimer's, and he had it throughout, probably maybe the last 5 or 6 years of his life. And I remember someone's advice said, just to smile. And when they're asking you the same thing, over and over and over,
Right.
you don't correct them.
Right.
You just,
just go with
happy
it. Yeah.
with them and do all of that. And it was great advice, because my husband would get really frustrated.
Right.
He's like, no, that's not me. That's, my
Yeah.
brother or this. And it's like, there's no point in correcting
Right.
at that point.
It's kind of an alternate reality that you live in.
Yeah, it is. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but what amazing 30 years that you've had.
Absolutely.
And looking back, and 8 grandchildren.
8 grandchildren.
I mean,
and great memories, great times. So it's been a great journey.
So let's talk travel, because I know you do some fun travel.
Yes.
You just got back on some trips. So where's your favorite place to go?
I'm not sure I'm very loyal. Right now, I'm kind of obsessed with Greece. I just like the Greek way of life. They just have such a casual way of living, and fresh fish and food, and beautiful waters. And so I sailed. We have always sailed. So I'm a sailor. I don't sail the boat myself. Don't worry. I won't get lost. But I sailed with some girlfriends in the Cyclades Islands, and it was beautiful and relaxing and replenishing for me. I think, much like you, the one thing that I have kind of failed at in life is really modeling self-care. So I'm kind of trying to do that aggressively now.
Yeah, that's great. Well, you've done so much. You go, and you have a servant heart. So you're always helping everyone else, I'm sure, as a mom and as a grandma and now a caretaker. You're putting yourself last, but I commend you for that, because that is hard to take a step back and say, what do I need?
What do I exactly?
For me,
and then you're better for everyone else. It's the saying of, put your own oxygen mask on first before you put the one on to the person next to you. And I think that's really about self-care. And I left Greece and then by myself went to Provence and took a cooking class in Julia Child's summer home and stayed in James Beard's guest room.
Okay, how fun is that?
And 5 other women that I didn't know from all over the country, and 2 chefs, and it was incredible.
So what did you learn to cook?
Well, the concept of this was, when you have fresh ingredients, you don't need recipes. So it's called courageous cooking. And
Which is true.
We experimented with all kinds of spices. I learned to cook a whole fish. I learned to cook gluten-free crepes, in case anyone's gluten-free. I learned to make amazing salads, how to make an incredible stock that I keep now all the time. It was just, and it was fun, because it was, women I didn't know. We shared stories. We're all sharing this Julia Child's house together. We're in her actual kitchen at her
I can't imagine.
cutting block. I mean, it was amazing. And I walked into the house, and this woman said, "Are you from Tulsa?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "So am I. I'm in Provence." And her dad still lives here. She grew up here. She's just moved to Nice with her husband and child. They run international yoga retreats.
Okay, well, that's
Small
amazing.
world, I know.
She remembered you as mayor?
She did. She knew my name as mayor.
You're
and
like, I'm trying to get out of
And I knew her stepdad. I know, yeah. I knew her stepdad, who still lives here.
But you probably had a common bond, not just with her, but all of these women together. Sometimes when you're placed with people with different backgrounds, that's such a neat experience.
Yeah, it was. It was a wonderful experience. And I went from there to Paris by myself, and saw Swan Lake and heard Vivaldi and Saint Germain and pre-Olympics, but they were getting ready for the Olympics 24/7. And I had, I needed to learn to travel by myself, because my husband's not traveling. And so this was my summer to do that. Then I went to New York and heard Billy Joel's final concert at Madison Square Garden and saw Sufs and the Outsiders.
I mean, the bucket list. You checked it off.
I checked it off, yeah.
That's so great. I love that you did that.
Yeah, I feel very fortunate that I was able to do that. and it was fun.
You came back probably just
I'm
refreshed and a new
I'm ready to
woman.
go.
You know, it's funny you said the Greek way of life. You know, I feel like Italy's similar. My mom and daughter and I went last summer, and to like we would go to dinner, and we were having a great time, having a glass of wine. We were enjoying the food, but we'd be like, okay, you know, we're kind of ready for the check. We'd been here for an hour and a half. And the waiter would be like, you're already ready to go?
Yeah.
Like, you know, they sit there for 3 and 4 hours.
With their coffee.
Yes. It's just, you have one wine with your appetizer and then another one with dinner and then your dessert. And, you know, and you look around and I'm like, here it is a Tuesday. If I was home, I would be stressed that I got to get home. I got to do this tomorrow. I got to get
laundry to fold.
Yeah. You know, and that's the way we live.
Yeah.
You know, where they're just here on a Tuesday, not traveling, just enjoying their life and, you know, savoring the food and the friendship and the fellowship.
Exactly.
And there is something to be said about that.
I agree.
That we can all learn from.
I agree.
So I want to go on on a trip with you next year.
Okay.
So if you look at all the accomplishments, because you have done so many, what would you say is your most proud moment?
You know, I mean, I will say that certainly the job I have enjoyed the most was being mayor, because you saw the impact you made in people's lives, whether it's a dad who called me on Easter Sunday and his daughter's first house that she just purchased had flooded and he couldn't get a hold of anyone at the city and it was going to ruin the house and they didn't have flood insurance. And he somehow, well, I know how I found my cell phone number. It was on the governor's website and has never changed. So if you need my cell phone number, there it is, back in the days of Governor Henry. And so, you know, that made a big impact in that one person's life. But I had another experience of a program that Monroe Nichols and I started for the highest poverty kids in our community. Mm-hmm. So during the summers, we would do kind of soft skill workshops, and on Fridays we'd take them to universities and expose them to universities, because they were usually either from first gen, but certainly from families did not have college education. And I was at the convention center one time, and when I left the convention center, I would always go out through the kitchen, because my grandmother was a cook in a grade school cafeteria, and I saw that she was kind of invisible to people. So I always go through and say thank you. So I got to know the staff, and all of a sudden I feel, because when you're mayor, you feel people coming up behind
Staring
you.
at you.
You kind of know. It's like your mom eyes are in back, and it's either good or bad. It's never like in between. And so this woman goes, you know, Miss Taylor, may I speak with you? And I was like, sure. And she said, I just want you to know, you know, I've done a lot of difficult things in my life. I've taken drugs. I've been in prison. And she said, I told my kids they kind of had to fend for themselves. And she said, my son was in your education program, and he starts college tomorrow.
Wow.
And I mean, you know, a waterproof mascara didn't even help. So, you know, you think there are a lot of policy jobs you can have, U.S. Senator, governor, president, but as mayor, you can make immediate impact on people's lives. Mm-hmm. And so I think my favorite thing is being able to do that, being able to interact with people in this community and know that, you know, I changed their lives. When I go to the ballpark and I see the families sitting on the berm, which was the one thing I required at the ballpark, I was like, I want a berm where people can afford to get in and be with their families. And I'm almost in tears every time I go there, because
everyone can go.
Yeah. It's really an accessible family place, and it makes a big difference in the life of Tulsans.
It definitely does. Okay, so you have a retail store opening. I didn't even have retail.
I know.
You know, in your titles.
In my quiver, right?
So tell me about Anybody's Guest.
Yeah, Anybody's Guest is at the corner of 11th and South Lewis. You can see the graphics are already up, but it is again a part of my passion for community building. It's something I've always wanted to do. I think that people are best when they can gather around a table, when they can celebrate successes together. And so the store is intended to, support small businesses and female entrepreneurs. That's where most of our products are from. But also intend to give people kind of a little push, a little courage and ease to be able to have those face-to-face interactions. We're going to do some community building education seminars, you know, teach kids who've never hosted a dinner party how easy it is to be able to invite people over to their apartment and have game night and you know, serve some food. So that's the goal. I love setting a table. I love having people over. My family always said on Thanksgiving they never knew who was going to be at our table, because I might have just found someone the day before and brought them in. So I just want to provide that spirit to others because, as I said at the beginning, I do think face-to-face social interaction is what's going to bring our society and our community back together, decrease the polarization, increase the civil conversation.
And when is that expected
Opened September 5th.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Right around the corner.
Yes.
That's amazing. Okay, I can't wait to go. So what is next? I mean, you've accomplished so much, but you're not slowing down anytime soon. So Kathy Taylor, 3 to 5 years from now, what are you doing?
Well, I obviously will be continuing to work to build the network with VEST, speaking to women's groups, mentoring people. But I really want to take that to a high school level. I want to make sure that, in those middle school, high school years when girls and boys, but I think my focus obviously is on young women, have that confidence, lack of confidence, to be able to provide them a space where they can go and meet people like you to inspire them. So I don't have that figured out yet. I'm gonna try not to do too many things at once as I've done in the past. So I'm going to get through the retail store and then hope by January 25 have a plan. I'm really using this summer I was traveling. This fall is about the store and learning. I'm going to, I don't know if you know Anne Lamott, who wrote a book called Bird by Bird. I'm going to her writing seminar in October, and I'm going to see what comes from there.
I love that you say you're going to be learning, because we can never stop learning.
No.
And you don't know. I would think, being on the other side, I mean, Kathy Taylor knows it all. Like, what is she really going to learn, right? At this point, everything you've done, everything you've accomplished, but yet you're still looking to learn more.
Absolutely.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here. I can't tell you how excited I was just to have you. I know it took months to get you on the schedule because you're busy, but you just really have touched my heart. You've been a mentor to me. I love what you've done for Tulsa, and Tulsa is truly a better place because of you.
Well, thank you. I feel the same about you. Thank you for the great work that you're doing and for inviting me on. I'm happy to share, and thanks for what you're doing.
Oh, good. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time on the Do It My Way podcast. Thank you for listening to the Do It My Way podcast. If you're wanting to build a personal brand, but you aren't sure where to start, I want you to book a discovery call with me at deidredetterman.com. I hope you are empowered today to do business on your terms with no regrets, hesitation, or fear. Again, head over to deidredetterman.com and click on Get a Quote.